Hello, and welcome to the Sacred Heart Shaman podcast, where we talk about spiritual healing, shamanic wisdom, and the challenges of walking the healer's path. My name is Nadia Harenkiu, and today is episode number 49, What It Means to be a Spiritual Physician.
Hello, and thank you for joining me on the podcast today. Today's topic is going to be about spiritual physicians. It's a pretty fun topic for me because I don't really feel like I've ever heard of it until it came up in my work. And today we're going to go into what it means to be a spiritual physician or a spirit doctor. So by Google's terms, which is where I always go to compare my experience with others, a person with this title is someone who can address a person's well-being through spiritual means rather than medical science. It often refers to faith-based healers, counselors, or even medical doctors who integrate some form of spirituality into their compassionate care. Now, the first time I actually Googled this term, I found a lot of information about Jesus, which was surprising to me, not being a religious person historically. And I guess Jesus Christ was said to be the ultimate spiritual physician. I thought that was pretty cool. From a holistic standpoint, these individuals can be described as being very shamanic, integrating the body, mind, and spirit as being interconnected. Now, nowhere else did I really see the word shamanic or shaman. It seemed like a lot of the descriptions that I found were very religious based in the dogmatic kind of way. So some examples of these individuals would be like pastors, religious leaders. In the Christian context, I guess they're called physicians of the soul. Chaplains would be another example. They would be spirit doctors in the context of being on healthcare teams and providing spiritual care in medical settings. Personally, I think that's a kind of a separate category. It's more like a counseling position. Medical doctors who embrace medicine as a spiritual practice can be considered spirit doctors, which honestly I've never found, but sounds pretty cool. And someone who facilitates healing through spiritual practices or by communing directly with the spirits. So in Christianity, Jesus is, I guess, portrayed as the divine physician or the spirit doctor, and that he heals the spirit of sin and its effects, providing hope and reconciliation with God. Now I'm going to pause here and go into this just for a second because this is a really interesting distinction. In my work as a spiritual physician, the idea of sin and the effects of sin is very closely related to demons. It's very closely related to shadows, and one could say that they are the same. So the idea of being a person who heals these things and then providing hope and right relationship with God or universe, that sounds extremely shamanic to me. It's like exactly the type of stuff I do, just with different words. And I find that to be really interesting. And how many other religious type organizations or systems out there have people within them who do the same thing, but with, again, different words. There is also an interesting thing about the Google stuff that I found, which was a focus on inner health. And the perspective emphasizes cultivating a strong inner spirit, which is what allows individuals to face any circumstances with courage or endurance. Now, I personally think that all of these things are lumped together. When you work with a spiritual physician, there's not like, oh, we're strengthening your inner spirit so that you can persevere. No, there's also miracles and spontaneous healing and spiritual healing and physical healing. Yet I did not find any descriptions that encompassed all of those things. So, very interesting. Now, when I talk about spiritual physician, I'm talking about it from my personal experience. I read Google because it's fun and interesting to see what is out there already, but also like where the holes are in the plot line in the definition of a spiritual physician. So I'm going to share my experience in this role and talk a little bit about it Would love to hear if there are other people who have these experiences, like personally or with practitioners. It's just such a fascinating topic, and I haven't heard it anywhere else. So as a spiritual physician, the word medicine took on new meaning for me very early on. And I did just talk about this in a recent podcast about everything you think you know about shamanism is wrong. We talked about medicine a little bit. But in my eyes, being any kind of doctor would mean carrying or administering medicine, which is actually quite contradicting to what we see in medical offices all over the country. We call this medical services or medical care medicine, but it's not really. There's not a lot out there that's actually healing the root, except for, naturopathic medicine and doctors of osteopathy, people who have gone the medical route but err in a more holistic realm. The root of medicine, like as a word, is Madiri, which actually means to heal or cure. So again, like I mentioned previously, talking about medicine is a very frustrating thing because we have blurred the description. We've blurred the lines on what medicine is. Medicine literally means to cure. And when we are taught and when we're used to going to doctors to make this pain go away, we're often not curing anything. We are dulling, we are misplacing, we are turning it off so that we don't have to listen to the real signal that's coming up in our body, because the body will always tell you when something has gone awry, and we're trained not to listen. Medicine would be resolving whatever the actual issue is instead of the symptomology of the issue. So I briefly went into this in my last podcast because my child's doctor told me that there was no medicine in medicine, and it was just I don't know, it was such a revolutionary moment for me. Not something it was something I knew already, but to hear it from a doctor was just ridiculous. The first time I saw a naturopathic doctor, I felt like I was experiencing Western medicine as medicine for the first time. Moving to Florida recently, I'm coming to understand that this is not the case all over the country. When I was in Washington State, we had multiple naturopaths that we worked with as a family. Insurance covered it. They were absolutely amazing. They changed our lives, the lives of my kids and myself. And when I came to Florida, I found out that naturopaths are not considered real doctors here, and insurance doesn't accept them. Same thing with a doctor of osteopathy, a DO. I was not able to find one easily, and when I did, it was like a 6-month wait, and it turns out that she's not really considered a legitimate doctor in her practice. But these practitioners approach medicine with a legitimate medical background and lots of holistic perspectives and practices that they incorporate in. So you're going to get a different experience with them. Highly recommend working with these types of doctors, despite whatever anybody tells you. They're absolutely amazing. So that was kind of a tangent, I'm sorry. When I work with someone in the capacity of a spiritual physician, I'm looking for, or I'm shown the path to 3 different things. So ailment is just part of the picture. Dis-ease, any kind of problem that you're having. These paths that I can see are inextricably, is that a word? They're intertwined. They're combined, yet separate, yet not. And they always will be. And they're actually more like spiral paths that weave in and out of each other. It's very hard to describe. My work is very unusual. Now, the first path that I can see and diagnose is the most common one and also the most important one, and it's the path to the heart. Healing this, following this, is required to cure any ailment that you have, period. Although I am allowed to conduct healings personally, and I have done so on several occasions, it's mostly up to a person. Now, this is great news. This is how we reach empowerment and a space of sovereignty and how we get true healing. So when I heal, I absolutely can. When I am supposed to heal, I do. But most of my job is actually sending people home with spiritual prescriptions. So if you want to heal this thing, you must first take these steps. And I do this because I basically see what needs to be done to get you from here to there. And most of that's not done in anybody's office or anybody's space. It's like, I know that you need to do this shift in your diet, and you need to bring in this practice, and then you need to get this kind of physical healing, and I want you to start practicing this thing over here. And they all have very specific jobs. It's like being able to see the Rubik's Cube of your spirit. Here's this depression that's popping out over here. Okay, Nadia, like, we're going to look at the whole system and what steps do we need to take to relieve the depression, because it's only popping out over here because it's like a tea kettle. This is the spout. And do you know how many people take this prescription seriously? It's like less than 10%. And the ones who do experience powerful shifts in healing are the ones who are in that 10%. The truth is that most people actually don't want to heal, or they aren't ready to, or they think that I'm going to do it for them. And again, sometimes I do, but that's a very victim state to be in, and you really can't go through transformational healing while you're still in victim. You have to be ready to come out of it, and that's fine. But it has caused me to reevaluate my demographic and my self-worth on more than one occasion. Sometimes there's actually something so large that only a healer or a shaman can move for you, like a specific energy or a multidimensional hook or attachment situation. This is done when it can be done, but the healing process ultimately will just be smoother or easier or more direct. It's not going to be skipped over entirely. And that's kind of a misconception about coming to see somebody like me, is like, I'm not going to do it for you, but I'm going to tell you exactly what you need to do, and whether or not you do it is up to you. So it's not a direct healing, but it is a clearing a lot of times. And so that happens so that direct healing can occur. So for example, if I can see, you're carrying the weight of something from your childhood, it's really freaking heavy, it's like sitting on your back, and I ask like, hey, does he need to work through this, or can I just take it? And they're like, just take it. I'll take it, and now your life is actually going to feel easier moving forward, and you'll have the energy and the clarity to do the things that I'm going to send you home now to do. Clearing is roughly 50% of my job, and it does require multidimensional presence in order to achieve a deep level of it. And this isn't just like, I'm going to light some smudge and I'm going to do a little ritual and we're going to lift it up. Like, no. We're talking about like a week before I see you, I'm starting to drain something inside you. Or a week after, or sometimes it's physical. People get very, very sick right before our session, and it's because there's a purge. Like, we're clearing stuff out so that healing can happen. It's not in the clearing that healing happens necessarily. The majority of this, from my standpoint, is basic spiritual practice and shadow work. But the benefit of having like a spiritual prescription is that you know exactly what you need to do. It is no longer a mystery. And then you get faced with the true issue, which is, do you want to heal? Do you want to heal enough to spend 10 minutes a day journaling and meditating? It's a very simple question. And because most of my work is teaching basic spiritual practice and shadow work, it's one of the reasons I'm actually in the process of building a larger course library and transitioning many of my online offerings into free or low cost. Because really, a simple soul retrieval can dislodge and heal more than you could possibly imagine. People need access to it. And if you're paying me on an hourly basis, like, we're looking at $300-$400 for 3 separate sessions to do a soul retrieval. Why wouldn't I just give it to you for free? So I'm in the process of kind of like shifting my technique to make all these basic spiritual doctoring things accessible, to teach basic spiritual concepts, to give you basic healing so that y'all can get through it without me having to give you each person a prescription. And then when you're really ready to do some cool, deep stuff, we get to work one-on-one in like a more awesome container that moves stuff very quickly. So the bottom of this thread is the heart, right? And why is healing the heart so important? When the heart is full of unprocessed grief, anger, resentment, or other things that we consider sins, inner demons, there is no space for healing to flow through you or into you, period. If your heart's not open, it is not happening. You are not going to get true healing. You're not going to be able to walk your path as who you are. You're not going to be able to carry medicine. It just can't happen. So heart healing has to come first. And it's really important to work with a practitioner who can identify what is clogging your heart. And I'm not talking about like, I feel like I've seen people and they tell people the same thing. You just need to do inner child work. You just need to do self-care. There's like 15 other things that are way more specific than that. But it's the most important starting point when you're looking to heal any illness is the heart work. Now, the second type of path that I see and walk people through as a physician is the steps required to cure the ailment. So many times it is cured in the process of opening the heart, but if not, the road forward is made clear once there is considerable amount of heart work that has been done. So right now, the heart work is where most people are stuck, hence the name of my organization, the Sacred Heart Shaman. And that's only part of the puzzle. The third part of my path, like pathways that I can see, is how people can become medicine and how they bring the medicine to the world, who they are. In order to carry medicine, which we all have, make no mistake, you must first deliver the medicine to yourself, not have a doctor do it for you, necessarily. This unique personal medicine is revealed in the process of the first two steps, usually, at least in part, or only after at least 50% roughly of your heart has been opened. Sometimes more, sometimes less. It depends on the person. So a lot of times when I work with a person, I can either see like all the stuff that needs to be healed. That's great. We do the things. I give them the tools. Or I can see, okay, there's some stuff here that needs to be healed, and like, whoa, this is the medicine that you carry into the world. Let's cultivate that and fine tune it at the same time. So you're doing the healing, but ultimately you're learning how to be a medicine person. Like, that's the goal. That's why we're here on Earth, guys. So what does this look like from a practical standpoint? Like, what do these sessions look like? What happens? First is psychic sight. So I see inside the body, the energy field, the bloodline, the family unit, and sometimes even to other times in space. If I can't see something, a lot of times I'll sense it. So like, let's say we do a reading and I'm like, ooh, I really feel like there's a multidimensional piece to this. I need you to go see someone for past life regression or an Akashic Records reading, or maybe I'm going to do it with you. It depends on what I'm seeing. I'm not always the right practitioner. Like, I do know how to do amazing things, but there are some things that are not my medicine, and I will send you to someone who it is their medicine. But basically, I'm identifying, like, where is something stuck, what is needed to shift it, and what is needed to clear it out. What can I do for you, and then what can I send you to do for yourself that will make things move. The second part of the session is talking to the body. When you speak to the body, it speaks back. The body tells me what it needs to process, what it needs to feel safe, to cleanse, or do something else that is required to heal. This is where my massage therapy background really comes into play, because although I don't practice regular massage anymore, I do a lot of craniosacral work, and that's about listening to the nervous system. So once you meet the spirit of a person's organs, systems, body, and you learn how to interact with the spirit side of all of these things, you can put your hand on a person and talk to the spirit of the nervous system, the spirit of the spine, the spirit of the body. Like, they will tell you what they need. Your job is to listen. My job is to listen. But I also teach other people how to do this. So, yeah, it's really cool. I also receive high-level messages, and this is the oracle part of my job. Seeing the past, the future, and the present, being able to give guidance on big crossroads that are coming, towers that needed to fall, or unhealed bundles in the past. So like, if I can see, hey, you have car accident energy happening, that's one of the worst messages I get, I think. And it usually means you are wound up too tight, there are too many boxes, you're too rigid, you're going to get into a car accident in order to shatter this like energy. It feels like petrified, like a petrified tree, like it's frozen. And in order for the universe to break through it, if you're meant to break through it, it will send car accident energy. And that may or may not mean a literal car accident, but if it's coming, a lot of times we can talk about how to prevent it. Sometimes it's inevitable. Or if you have a big initiation coming up and I'm like, okay, I can see that this person's going to be faced with a big decision very soon, and how they make this decision is going to affect their future, obviously. Either they're going to be sent back into another karmic loop and it's going to take them so many years to circle back, or they can make the choice that's a harder choice, but it's a shorter path. So I talk about that stuff too. Also get a lot of messages before and after a session, and this is one of the reasons why having this as a full-time job is extremely challenging, but also like, how do you pay for something like that? How do you compensate a person? It's not like I have 10 other clients in one day, right? I max see 2 or 3, sometimes more if it's the only day I'm working in a single week. But we're talking about messages in my sleep, messages the night before, messages before you get there, like so much information, because that's what you're coming to a spiritual physician for. You're coming for all the information. So that guidance comes from your guides, your higher self, the universe, beings that want to be present during our sessions because they need like somebody to open a portal to enter. And this is part of the shaman role, opening portals so beings can easily come through. And that's a multidimensional kind of piece to the puzzle. If we want to work with, for example, an extraterrestrial being, some of them need certain doorways to access the space or to access your body, and like they might have a healing for you and they need someone to help facilitate that healing. So it's not necessarily coming from me, but the individual that it wants to come through will communicate through me and will be able to work through me. Finally, and probably the most practical part of all of this, is being able to articulate all that I see and what steps need to be taken, often in a very specific order, in order to move into an open heart or healing space. Now, again, like every session, I'm spitting out so much information, but then sending a follow-up email with like a literal prescription. And they can be so long and so complex sometimes that I advise people print them out, check them off one at a time, and then, circle back when the time is right. And the timeline for that is not usually annually. It's not even usually every couple months. It's usually like every couple years. Like they come to me for something, they get through some of the stuff, their life starts to move and shift and explode and transform, and now they're on the path. There they go. Great. And then 3 years later, they'll come back to me and be like, I'm ready to go deeper. It's really interesting. So I think that's a little bit different than a regular doctor, because we're talking about continuing the depth. We're not just fixing the problem, we're fixing it and we're expanding. We're doing more. We're going bigger. These sessions are often extremely big, extremely complicated, kind of like a plant medicine ceremony. I say it a lot. My work is a lot like sitting in an ayahuasca ceremony. Just the level and volume is pretty intense, but way easier to integrate and with way more practical homework. Being a spiritual physician is hands down my favorite aspect of the work that I do. I do it virtually and in person, though I always love the in-person work because there is nothing better than meeting with a person in 3-dimensional worlds. This virtual stuff is getting out of control, and laying hands is so cool and so fruitful. And a lot of times, we equally have big experiences. In general, shamans are problem solvers by nature, and so these sessions tend to be extremely satisfying for all parties. If you ever have the opportunity to work with a spiritual physician, I highly recommend it. If you feel like this is in your wheelhouse, like reach out to me, do one of my trainings or mentorship work. It's a really awesome job. So thank you for joining me today for this chat on spiritual physicians. It's such a cool concept that I wish more people knew about, and I am grateful that you have come here to share space with me. Have a great rest of your day.
If you enjoyed this podcast and want to know more about me and my work, you can find me at www.sacredheartshaman.com.